Good morning and happy Friday to all of you. We are here with creative writing this morning. We're going to be going over some basic writing rules today. It should be really good. Basic writing stuff that's going to make all of our writing better, make it communicate more. It'll be good. Hi to everybody that's here. Hi, Evan. As always, you guys can write any comments or questions in the Q&A box. Hi, Ian. Good to see you guys here. Hi, Ananya. Hi, Aubrey. Hi, Natalie. Natalie's asking, what are we going to do today? We're going to be going over basic writing rules. Yeah, if you guys ever miss a class, you can always go to Delphian's YouTube channel. Sometimes it takes a few days for them to put up the classes, but they should be up there and you can go back and watch it or review it if you miss one. So yeah, good to see you guys all here. And welcome to everybody still coming into the class right now. Hi, Katya. Katya, happy birthday to your grandpa. He's welcome to watch too if he wants to go over some basic writing rules with us today. All right, cool. So normally in our creative writing class, we go over like a lot of stuff about story, character, plot, how to make your characters really feel like real people, how to show things instead of telling. Today, because a lot of you have been writing your stories and a lot of you have already shared them with me. Thank you, by the way. I've been reading a lot of your stories and they are awesome. Now it's like after your creativity flows out and after you put words on the paper and you've got a story going and you're ready to go back and start rewriting and fixing and making your story even better, I think now is the right time to talk about some technical things. And when I say technical, I mean like some of the rules of how we put the words down on paper, punctuation, things like that. The word punctuation just means it's like the little marks, the little symbols that we use that help people understand what we're trying to say. I want everyone to remember, writing is about communication. We are trying to take an idea that we have and communicate it to somebody else. The only reason that we follow rules like punctuation or any of the other writing rules is because they help us communicate. They help other people get what we're saying and not be confused about what we're saying. So I want everyone to keep that in mind because sometimes punctuation and other kind of technical writing rules, they're not a lot of fun all the time. Sometimes they can feel a little bit confusing. Today, I don't think will be very confusing. We're going to go over some simple ones. But it's really important for writers. And I know all of you are writers. I've been reading your stuff. It's great. But these little rules, they help other people understand what we're trying to say. And that makes it more fun for the reader and for the writer. So let's jump into it. If you guys have any questions about the rules that we go over, write them in the Q&A box. Or if you just have a question about a writing rule, some punctuation thing or some other thing you've always wondered about, hey, what am I supposed to do when I write something like this? Or what does this symbol mean? You know, some kind of writing symbol. Ask me and we'll talk about it. Okay, here we go. So today we're going to talk about punctuation and other basic writing rules. If we make errors with these rules, it can stop our communication as writers. And we don't want our communication stopped, right? Here's rule number 1. And all of these rules that we're going to go over today, by the way, are based on things that I've seen from writers that I've taught as a teacher and from some of the stories that have been shared with me over the past few weeks. If you already know some of these rules, awesome. Just stick with us. If these are things that you can work on, awesome. It'll help all of us to just review and get really sharp on our writing skills. So rule number 1, begin every sentence with a capital letter. Here is a lowercase e, a little e. Here is a capital E. A lot of writers know this pretty good, but it is something that we forget sometimes. Here is an example. Here are a few sentences from Peter Pan. All children except one grow up. They soon know that they will grow up. And the way Wendy knew was this. One day when she was 2 years old, she was playing in a garden. ... That symbol there means I'm not continuing on with the sentence. All right. Can you, writers at home, see the errors? If you see what the errors are, put them in the Q&A box and I'll read them out. So writing rule number 1, we want to start every sentence with a capital letter. So if you see an error made in this, put it in the Q&A box. Hi, April. Don't worry, you're not very late. We just started. We're going over basic writing rules today, like punctuation. So right now, this is a section from the very beginning of the book Peter Pan, and we are looking for any errors made here in terms of capital letters. All right. Okay, Evan says they should be a capital letter. Should have a capital T there. Good job, Evan. You are right. Let's see. Ian says the A in all should be capital. Very good job, Ian. That is right. Let's see. And April points out that, I think this is what April's pointing out, that there is a lowercase o. Yes, there's a lowercase o that should be a capital letter too. A lot of the rest of you, now I see your comments, a lot of you are getting this right. Ian's got it, Arnav's got it, Katya, Aubrey, Ananya, good job everybody. A lot of right answers there. Let's jump to the next one here. We've got it highlighted. All children, the A in all should be capitalized. They, the T should be capitalized, and one, the O should be capitalized. Very good job. So this is what it should look like once we fix that. That's better. All children except one grow up. They soon know, and one day when she was 2 years old. So as you write, look for this. As you're writing sentences, go back through and see if all your sentences start with a capital letter. Sometimes the program that you're using, if it's Google Docs or Microsoft Word or any other writing program, sometimes the computer will spot this and it'll kind of point it out to you with like a little squiggly line underneath. But not always. I've seen times where the computer misses it. So it's our job as the writer to go through and make sure that every sentence starts with a capital letter. Let's see if there's any questions about that. If there's not, we'll move on to the next one. Just looking through really quick. Lots of correct answers there. Good. I think we are all on the same page. April says she thinks that there should be a different symbol after one of the words. And yeah, you could probably write this a different way. This text, though, is taken directly from an online copy of the book. So yeah, if you were writing this story, April, it'd be totally okay, I think, to make that change. She's suggesting a change to a punctuation mark. If it was your story, you could do that. I think that'd be totally fine. This is the way that the author of Peter Pan wrote it. So yeah, there you go. Okay, next one. Rule number 2. End every sentence with a period, a question mark, or an exclamation mark. This sentence ends with a period, just a little dot. This ends with an exclamation mark. Does this end with a question mark? So I did that there so you can see a period at the end of that example sentence, an exclamation mark at the end of the second, and a question mark at the end of a third. By the way, does anybody know what exclamation means? When you see exclamation mark, does anybody know what exclamation actually means? Nia points out that there are different kinds of Peter Pan books. Yeah, there's probably different editions, different versions of the book. So yeah, it's possible that different versions have different punctuation. Evan says exclamation means shout. Ian says yelling. Nia says if you exclaim, you are all correct. Mackenzie says like you're excited. Yep. Or April says that the person's yelling. Aubrey says like saying yay. Yeah, so it often means a shout or a yell, but it overall, yes, to exclaim something means to say it usually louder or with more feeling. That the word exclamation comes from the simpler word exclaim. So we are exclaiming something when we use an exclamation mark. You guys are correct. Yeah, Katya says excitement. That's right. Natalie says that means you're excited or happy, maybe scared. Yeah, definitely. All right. So, oh, Natalie, awesome. Natalie kind of copied the whole first example paragraph into the Q&A box, and she fixed all the, she turned the lowercase letters and uppercase letters. Thank you. April put an example sentence in here. April put down, tomorrow is my birthday, is something that her brother says. Awesome. It's got an exclamation mark at the end. Very good. Okay, these are some sentences from a little bit later in Peter Pan. I do believe it is that Peter again. Whatever do you mean, Wendy? It is so naughty of him not to wipe his feet, Wendy said, sighing. Okay, so one of these sentences needs a period, one of these sentences needs an exclamation mark, and one of them needs a question mark. And this is your task. This is your mission right here. I want all of you to figure out, where does the period go? Where does the exclamation mark go? And where does the question mark go? Let me know in that Q&A box. Everybody's thinking. I think there's typing going on. AG is here. Hey, AG. Okay. I'm not going to read out their answers quite yet because I want to give everybody a chance to write their answers in. AG, I think you're right. Good job. Got an answer here from Evan. All right, Evan, what do you think about the other two sentences? Evan told me about the first sentence. What do you think about the other two? See, one clue here is there's three sentences and there's three marks. One of them is a period, one of them is a question mark, one of them is an exclamation mark. So with that information, figure out which one would have to go where. Ian's got an answer here. All right. Katya has an answer. Milo, pretty good answer. Milo, I want you to take one more look at it. Milo, where your third answer, if we put that mark there, let's look at what the sentence would really be saying. Very good job, Ananya. I think you've got it. All right. Ian, good. Your question mark sentence is correct. Ananya says, I don't know. It's okay, Ananya. Just make a guess. Make a try. Mackenzie, I think you've got it. Very well done. All right, April, pretty good job, but I think two of them need to be switched around. Good job, Milo. Your second answer, I think, is the right one. Very good job. Elizabeth, interesting answer. The three marks, though, will all go at the end of the sentence. Your answer is another way you could write it, Elizabeth, but we'd have to actually change one of the sentences to write it that way. Okay, a lot of you are doing really good answers, so we're now going to break it down together. Here are where the marks go. The first one is the exclamation mark. I do believe it is that Peter again. The second one, whatever do you mean, Wendy? And the third one, it is so naughty of him not to wipe his feet, Wendy said, sighing. So here's, I think, so most everybody got the question mark right, but some people switched the exclamation mark and the period. A few people, you see this comma in the sentence, the third sentence. It is so naughty of him not to wipe his feet. Then there's a comma. Some people changed that comma to an exclamation mark. Now, we could, if we wanted to rewrite this story, we could choose to put an exclamation mark there. But the period goes at the end of the sentence because Wendy said, sighing, that's not something a character is saying. That's something that the writer, the writer of the book is saying. He's telling you what somebody else said, but a period would go after sighing because the author of the book isn't shouting. A character can shout, but the author usually wouldn't. So the author, when the person who wrote the book is telling something, they usually end their sentences with periods. Characters that are saying things will much more often be exclaiming or shouting, and they get the exclamation marks. Does that make sense to everybody? If that doesn't make sense, let me know. A lot of you had really great answers. Yep, Natalie, very good job. Yeah, again, a lot of people did put an exclamation mark right after feet, which I would understand if we were rewriting the story. That could work there. Aubrey put 2 exclamation marks after, I do believe it is that Peter again. That's a funny thing. When people are writing, like on the internet, like in emails, or they're writing messages online, they'll often put in more than 1 exclamation mark. Usually in stories or books that are published or that you buy like in a bookstore or get from the library, you'll usually only ever see authors use 1 exclamation mark. It's generally understood that 1 exclamation mark means that the character is shouting. It's more of like an internet thing to put a lot of exclamation marks after something. All right, good. Aubrey says, like me, and puts in like 50 exclamation marks. All right, good. You guys have a lot of really good answers here. So we're going to go on to the next thing. Now, some of you may have noticed there's actually something else missing from these examples that we just did. And that's rule number 3. Put quotation marks around the things characters are saying. It's really important to do this, Corey said. So the quotation marks are those little marks at the beginning and end of a sentence, that the little boop, boop. When you see those 2 little lines at the beginning and end, that they look kind of like commas, but higher up, those are quotation marks. That is the author saying, this is something that somebody said. And to bring that example back up, that's what it looks like. Right before it's, you see those 2 little lines. And right after my exclamation mark, you see those 2 little marks. The computers will usually do this for you, but the way that you see that at the beginning, right before it's, how they're kind of curved toward the beginning of my word. And after the exclamation mark, you can also see that they're kind of curved toward my word. Sometimes when you're deleting things or changing things around, the quotation marks, maybe kind of get turned around. Technically, they always should be pointed toward the sentence. They're kind of like a hand holding the sentence curved on both sides towards what you're saying. So what the person is actually saying, it's really important to do this, Corey said. If you, as the writer, say, Corey said, or said Corey, or whatever, that stuff goes outside the quotation marks. The stuff inside the quotation marks is what the character is saying. You saying that somebody said it, that goes outside the quotation marks. I hope you can see that in this sentence here. Going back to Peter Pan again. So we have 3 sentences here. The 3 sentences we just did. I do believe it is that Peter again. Whatever do you mean, Wendy? It is so naughty of him not to wipe his feet, Wendy said, sighing. Okay, so I think the first 2 are going to be easier. The third sentence might be a little bit trickier. Because remember, the quotation marks go around only what a person is saying. Now, the first line here, I do believe it is that Peter again. And then the second line, whatever do you mean, Wendy? Those 2 lines are being said by 2 different characters. And authors don't always have to say, Peter said, Wendy said, after every line. Because we can usually tell after the author tells us once or twice who's talking, we can usually keep track of who is saying what in a story. And if we said, Peter said, or Wendy said after every sentence, it would start sounding really silly, really fast. Imagine if you read a book and it was like, hi, Wendy said. Hi, Peter said. Where are you going? Wendy said. I'm going to the store, Peter said. Why are you going to the store? Wendy said. Oh my gosh, it'd be like, no, I'm not going to read this. This is ridiculous. Instead, you'll see books, usually it'll be like, where are you going? Wendy said. I'm going to the store, Peter said. Why are you going there? To get some bread. Oh, I like to buy bread. Anyway, it goes on. But you can tell after the first couple lines who's talking, so we don't need to put that on most sentences. Okay. So these sentences here, these examples, we need to put quotation marks in several places. Jump in the Q&A box and see if you can figure out where they go. And Mackenzie goes, yes, Mackenzie said, and the yes is in quotation marks. Writers are generally funny people. I think that's a true thing. Okay, Ian did a good job. He's got his quotation marks in mostly the right place. Great. Evan and Natalie, you wrote sentences in the Q&A box, but I don't see any quotation marks yet. I encourage you to write the sentence again, but show me where those quotation marks go. The button for quotation marks, if you haven't used it before, is right next to the Enter key, usually. Good. April has a good example of quoting what somebody else is saying. Good job. Good. Yeah, Mackenzie, I think you're right about where you're putting them. Aubrey has her own made-up sentence here. Very good. Those quotation marks in the right place. Good job. Nia, quotation marks are 2 little lines. I'm going to go back a few slides really quick, or 1 slide. Okay. You'll see in my example sentence here at the bottom, it's really important to do this, Corey said. The 1 mark after it looks very similar to a quotation mark. But what that mark actually means is that a letter was left out. When it says it's, that little mark between the T and the S means I left out the letter I. Instead of it is, that changed to its. The 2 marks together are a quotation mark. So the 2 little marks before the I and the 2 little marks after the exclamation mark, those are the quotation marks. They show that my sentence starts with its and it ends with this. Okay? All right, so back to our Peter Pan example sentences here. AG, I do believe it is that. Good, good. AG, you did a perfect job. Very well done. Oh, and AG says that he figured out how to hit the Enter key in the Q&A without sending it. He says hit Shift plus Enter and it makes another row. Thank you, AG. That's very helpful. Yeah, so if you want to write multiple sentences in the Q&A box, AG is helping us out. He says you can hit shift, hold down shift, and then hit enter, and it won't submit your comment before you're ready. Let's see. April had an example, or somebody else could say this. It is really important to do this, Corey told me. And yeah, she has. Well, April, you did a really good job. I'm not going to go into April's example too much today because she's giving an example of somebody quoting somebody else, and that gets more complicated. But April, you did a great job. I want you to know that. I just think your example, April, it might be a little bit more complicated than we wanted to get into today, but you did an awesome example. So thank you. All right. Good. Mackenzie made another great example. Listen to Corey, Mackenzie said, and listen to Corey's in quotation marks. All right, great job, everybody. Very well done. Here's what it should look like. So I do believe it is at Peter again. The quotation marks go outside the I and the exclamation mark. The second line, they go outside whatever, and they go outside Wendy. The third line is the one that's a little bit trickier, but you guys did really good. So the quotation mark goes before it, and then it goes outside the comma. I saw at least one example where the quotation mark was put inside the comma, which is a totally understandable way to put it. But the rules about doing this is you put the quotation marks outside the comma. I think there's like an old-fashioned reason for that, but it's just something that we can all know. The quotation mark goes outside the period, comma, question mark, or exclamation mark. So the end part here, Wendy said, sign, is not inside the quotation mark because that's not what Wendy's actually saying. That's the author telling us that Wendy said something and the fact that she's sighing while she does it. Okay, you guys are doing a great job. Let's move on to the next one. Rule number 4. Oh, Evan, I see that you did the hand raising feature, but if you want to ask anything, just put it in the Q&A box. The Q&A box is the way that we can see what you are saying. Sanskar, you did a great job, except in your example, just put in the last line, put the quotation mark after the comma, and then your writing is perfect. Very good job. Okay, rule number 4. Write using paragraphs. Paragraphs are how you break up your writing. It's basically using the enter key to start a new chunk. You don't want to let your words run on and on and on and on and on without any breaks. Visually, just look at this. This giant chunk of writing that I put here should really be broken up into some paragraphs. It's just some silly stuff I wrote. But I just wanted to show you kind of visually. You can go ahead and read that if you want to. I don't say anything important. But I just want you to see it doesn't look great. It's a giant chunk of writing that it can be visually confusing. The reader can lose their place in it as they read through something like that. By hitting the enter key, you break it up and make it easier to actually see what the writer is trying to say. So there's a few rules, like kind of sub rules here. One of them is you always start a new paragraph when a new person is speaking. And we don't mean new by like you've never seen them before. We mean it like, look back here. I do believe it is that Peter again. That's Wendy talking. Whatever do you mean, Wendy? I think that's Wendy's mom talking. It is so naughty of him not to wipe his feet, Wendy said, sighing. So each one of these lines, even though it's only one sentence, we hit the enter key and start a new line because it's when people are talking back and forth, you have to hit that enter key every time or else it gets very confusing very quickly about who is saying what. Mackenzie, you did a great job. Blah, blah, wow, cool, new lines, nice. Each one of those is a new paragraph. Very good job. April, thank you for sharing that it's your brother's birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday to your brother. Great. So yeah, going back to this rule here, don't make paragraphs that look like my big paragraph here. It's too much. Don't give people pages of writing that never stop, because it is just, you know, it's tough. It's tough for the reader. Here is an example. So this is taken from Peter Pan, and I actually kind of broke the way it was in the book. This is not the way it's written in the book. What's your name? He asked. Wendy Moira Angela Darling, she replied with some satisfaction. What is your name? Peter Pan. She was already sure that he must be Peter, but it did seem a comparatively short name. Is that all? Yes, he said rather sharply. And it goes on. It's kind of a lot for a paragraph, and two people are talking back and forth, and there's no breaks. When you have a lot more words than this on a page, I guarantee you the reader will get lost. They'll be like, wait, which line am I on? They'll go back. They'll read over something a second or a third time, because it's just tough to read it this way. So go ahead and in the Q&A box, you don't have to do the whole paragraph because it's kind of a lot. You can just tell me a few of them if you want. But in the Q&A box, I want you to tell me or guess, where should we be hitting the enter key? Where should we be starting new paragraphs in this chunk? Natalie, yes, you did a great example of I am and I'm. Yeah, she put the one little mark there to change I am to I'm. Very good job. Do you want to know the name of that mark, Natalie? That's called an apostrophe. Isn't that a weird word? It's kind of a long word. It's a long word for a small mark, but it is an apostrophe. Okay, so in the Q&A box, you don't have to do this whole paragraph because this is a lot, but just tell me a few. Where should we be starting new sentences in this giant broken paragraph of smushed together sentences? I had to make this, by the way. I copied and pasted this because the writer of the book did it correctly. I had to break what he wrote and smush a bunch of sentences together to make this paragraph. J.M. Barrie, the writer of Peter Pan, is probably going, what did you do? What did you do to my writing? Aubrey asks, what's my name? I'm Corey, by the way. A lot of you have been to my classes before, but if you haven't been, I'm Corey, and you can call me Corey in the Q&A box. All right. Mackenzie says she's not sure where the new paragraph should be. Okay, well, that's fine. One of the things that you can start with is just every time a new person is talking or a person says something new, like it switches who's talking, that's one of the places you can start a new paragraph. So where it says, what's your name? He asked. Wendy Moira Angela Darling, she replied. Well, right where it says Wendy, that is a new person talking, or it's a new thing said by a different character. So we would hit enter right there. Mackenzie, can you guess some other places we should start a new paragraph? This one might be a little bit tougher. I'm not seeing a lot of answers yet in the Q&A box. But that's okay, because I'll show you the right way in just a second here. Just giving you guys a little bit more time. If anybody wants to jump in there, it's okay to try too. Even if we make a mistake, it's totally okay, because we're practicing here. We're getting better. All right, well, I'll show you what this looks like broken up into paragraphs. There we go. What's your name? He asked. Wendy Moira Angela Darling. So we hit the enter key there and make a new line because it's a new person talking. And then she asks, what is your name? So we hit enter again to make a new line. Peter Pan. And then the author hits enter again because now he wants to talk about what Wendy is saying. She was already sure that he must be Peter, but it did seem a comparatively short name. By the way, comparatively means we're comparing two things. So her name, Wendy Moira Angela Darling, is a long name. And he's like, oh, my name, Peter Pan. When you compare them, it seems pretty short. Is that all? So since there's new talking, new paragraph. Yes, he said rather sharply. New talking, new paragraph. Now, yes, he said rather sharply. He felt for the first time that it was a shortish name. Shortish there just meaning it feels short. So when it goes on with talking about Peter, when it says he felt, we don't hit the enter key because we're still talking about the same person for a little bit. There we go. Aubrey put an example in here. Good job. So I would say when you are all writing, don't worry about making too many paragraphs. It's probably better if you're going to make a mistake to have too many paragraphs instead of too few. If you look at this page right now, it's pretty much each sentence is a new paragraph because two people are talking back and forth quickly, but that's okay. It communicates well because we as readers can see what the writer is saying. It's clear, it's easy to observe, it's good. Going back to that last paragraph, too many writers make the mistake of just smushing everything together. And it's tough to read. It is not super fun. This is what we want to avoid. If you feel like, but what if I hit enter too many times? What if I make too many paragraphs? Don't worry about it. It's hard to make too many. If you try to make your page more like this one, you'll probably do a great job. Okay, we're going to move on to our last rule of the day. And that is check your spelling. This is one of the hardest rules. Why? Because spelling can be tough. Spelling in every language can be tough, but in English it can be especially tough because our language of English and our spelling, our words come from a lot of other different languages. So English is full of words that come from German and French and Spanish and lots of other languages. So our rules for spelling are kind of a mishmash. They're kind of a mixture of a lot of other different ideas about how things should be spelled. Spelling can take a lot of time to learn and be good at, but I would recommend it. It's worth spending your time getting good at spelling. And the reason for that is that readers, when they're reading, if you spell words incorrectly, they might get confused about what you're actually trying to say. And then if they're confused about what you're trying to say, it's stopping your communication. It's making it harder to understand your story, and it's making it less likely that your reader will want to continue reading. So time that you spend getting good at spelling is time, it's time well invested. That means any time you spend at getting good at spelling is going to give you very great benefits down the line. The better and better you get at spelling, the more and more your readers are going to stick with you and read what you have to say because you're not stopping your own communication with misspelled words. But it takes time. It takes time to get good at spelling. Here is another example. Okay, so I took another chunk of Peter Pan and I broke it again. I went in and I made spelling errors in here. Just a few, but I wanted to see if anybody could spot them. Spotting spelling errors can be tough, and I wanted to show that in here. There are at least 5 spelling errors. Can anybody here find one or more of them? And I put this rule last because I wanted to challenge you guys. You guys are all very bright, but this one I think will be a little bit tougher. Oh, nice. AG says I got first place in my school spelling bee, 3rd to 5th grade for the previous year and the year before that. AG, that is awesome. So I think AG is going to find the spelling errors. Can anybody else find one before AG does? Mackenzie made an answer here that is full of spelling errors for fun. Nia says, can you please go back to rule 5? Sure thing. It's a simple rule. It's just check your spelling. When you write something, take the time to go through and read it over and over again and try to fix the spelling errors. Ah, Mackenzie found one. Good job. You're right about that one. She found a spelling error in the first line. Ananya found the same spelling error. Very good. Very good job. Mackenzie found another one. Milo found 2. Good job, Milo. You guys are actually pretty good at this. Ananya found several. Good. 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 Oh, you're doing a great job, Ananya. Very well done. Sanskar, yes, one of them is correct. One of them that you did a fix to, take another look at. Take another look at the second word you wrote, Sanskar. AG, very good job. I can't trick AG. AG is very good at this. Nia is a spelling bee champion too. Very good job. Awesome. Yeah, I think writers like to spell. I bet all of you are going to get really good at this. Lily found several. Very good job, Lily. Well done. Yeah, Ananya points out that several of the spelling errors in here are words that sound like other words. Some of the spelling errors, they are actually the way you spell a different word that sounds like it. All right, you guys did a great job. All right, since we're about out of time, we're gonna go to the next slide here, and I'm going to show you what the spelling errors are. So it says, Wendy, when you're sleeping, your should be you are, or you were with an apostrophe. Over here, you might be flying about, might spelled wrong. Now, a few people wrote that ooh here is misspelled. You know, ooh isn't technically a word, but the author is trying to show what somebody sounds like when they're going, ooh. That's how the author wrote it. That's fine for stuff like that. If you're just trying to show a sound that somebody made, there's usually not like a correct spelling. Wendy, there are mermaids. There is the spelling of a different word. With tails, tails is the spelling of a different word. Frightfully means like very much something. It's like a stronger way of saying something. It should be one word. And cunning, clever, smart, tricky, it should have 2 N's. So this is what it should look like. Wendy, when you are sleeping, you might be flying. There are mermaids with tails, such long tails, frightfully cunning. You guys did a great job with that. Very well done today. Since we're ending off now, I hope these rules have been helpful. If you would like to learn more about writing rules like this, the writing courses that we use here at Delphian are from Heron Books. You can go on heronbooks.com, and we have courses on grammar, on how to write sentences people love to read, writing paragraphs, how to make your writing great. These are fantastic courses. They come with workbooks. There's like a textbook that you can read about all these rules. Then there are workbooks that you get to write in. They are awesome. I highly recommend it. Here's the website. Check it out. As always, you guys can share your stories with me at online.learning@delphian.org. A lot of you have been sending your stories in. I'm loving it. Keep on sending them in. And we will, by the end of summer, we're going to put all of our stories together and share them with the whole class. So keep on sending those in. Thank you guys for watching today. Bye to everybody that's saying bye in the Q&A box. You're very welcome, Ian. Bye, Evan. Bye, Sanskar. Oh, April says, go back to the books. Here you go. This is what the books look like. There's one called How to Write Sentences People Love to Read. There's one called Writing Paragraphs, How to Make Your Writing Great. And Working with Grammar, How to Break It Down and Make It Work for You. These are all great courses that will improve your spelling, your punctuation, your, I guess these ones don't go over spelling so much, but they go over punctuation, grammar, writing sentences. They're great. And those are at heronbooks.com. All right. I will see you guys back next week. Bye, Mackenzie. Bye, AG. Bye, Elizabeth. Bye, April. Bye, Ishan. Bye, Arnav. Bye, Aubrey. Bye, everybody. We have another class starting in 15 minutes. That's real life skills. It's going to be awesome today. And then after lunch, Quinn is going to be back with more computer science. So thank you, everybody, for watching. I will see you next week. Bye.